This video is brought to you by me. For $1 a month, you can support the channel directly and help me keep doing what I love. Thanks for watching and supporting. I long for the days when arcade racers were more common, and of course I am biased because it's one of my favorite genres. I understand the appeal of racing sims, a genre that never really went out of style. But unless I'm in a really specific mood, simulated racing games feel too limited for what I'm looking for. I understand the appeal of tweaking a car's properties to shave time off laps, but if I wanted to tweak an engine, I'd just work on my girlfriend's 20-year-old Toyota Solara. Pearl will outlive all of us if I have anything to say about it. But what I think really bores me about racing sims and circuit racers is the lack of chaos and unpredictability. Again, I'm not dunking on racing sims. They mostly just aren't for me. My version of tweaking and experimentation comes from racing through the streets, finding new paths to get to the finish line. And that's why arcade racers are so fun to me. In street racing games in particular, weather and traffic are consistently real obstacles you have to take into account each race. This is where Midnight Club 2 comes in. While Midnight Club Los Angeles is one of my favorite racing games ever, and I definitely want to dig into Midnight Club 3 soon, something seemed really appealing about going back to when the series was still getting its footing. It was an interesting experience to say the least, especially knowing where the series went after it. And with this video, I really want to focus on three things: the cities you race in, the cars you drive, and how the gameplay here survived and evolved throughout the series. Midnight Club 2 takes you to three different cities: Los Angeles, Paris, and Tokyo. I was surprised at just how distinct each city was. Los Angeles had wide streets and long, winding freeway straightaways, meaning handling was less of a priority than speed and acceleration. But then you go to France and everything is pretty claustrophobic as you race down one-way side streets and try not to fly off into the water when you take shortcuts. Each of the maps are varied and broken up into their respective districts, and as you challenge different racers, you focus on these smaller areas within the maps. This helps to make the maps feel larger than they are because you discover more to see as you race instead of racing around the whole map immediately. As you roam around each city, you encounter other street racers and challenge them to win their cars. These racers are mostly plucked from the spectrum of stereotypes and add very little to the game. You read their minds before they start speaking to you, and it's mainly just them talking trash before you beat them and move on to the next racer. And for some reason, your reputation never precedes you, and every single racer is just as cocky and obnoxious as the rest. Their purpose seems to be adding structure to an otherwise pretty light career mode. Normally, unlicensed cars are a pretty big pet peeve of mine, and in the decade plus it's been since I played this game, I completely forgot there aren't licensed vehicles in this game. However, every single vehicle in the game is so reminiscent of real-life cars, I didn't even notice. Coming from 2003, you probably aren't going to be surprised to see a lot of cars you'd easily find in Fast and Furious. Lancer Evos, Civics, Supras, Vipers, and so on. They're so similar that outside of the names, you might catch yourself thinking there are actually licensed vehicles, just like I did at first. Of course, given the car culture scene at the time, most of the vehicles are fitted with aftermarket kits and spoilers as well. I think what I was most surprised about by Midnight Club 2 was the lack of customization available. All you have control over is the color of your car's paint, and even then you can only choose from a set list of colors, with some cars offering only one paint job anyway. Things like decals and rims are locked and cannot be modified. You get what you get. My bigger gripe was that there were no engine or steering upgrades available. The stats your car comes with are unmodifiable. If you want to go faster, you need to win yourself a faster car. Midnight Club 2 kind of skirts around this issue by encouraging you to leapfrog from one car to the next, so as soon as you win a new vehicle, you might as well use it. This prevents you from getting too connected to one vehicle for too long. Because you unlock cars so quickly, if there was an upgrade or customization system, I'm not sure if it would be helpful or redundant. You unlock cars on a loose average of every 2 or 3 races, or every time you defeat another street racer's challenges. So to me, by the time you dumped money or time into getting upgrades, you'd be moving on to a better car anyway. I know how much personalization matters to people, so I thought I'd mention it, but the way the game is structured kind of works around the problem it made for itself, if that makes sense. The cars themselves feel very similar to how they feel in Midnight Club Los Angeles, in that they handle and accelerate differently depending on the type of car they are. Muscle cars have high speeds, but wrangling them around corners and through narrow passages is a tough ask, so they aren't really feasible in Paris, despite easily being more powerful than any vehicle you race against. And while maybe the Viper stand-in is fast, it might be a smarter strategy to use a tuner with higher acceleration and handling when whipping around the streets of Tokyo. Each class of car feels distinct. However, because you are given so many cars as rewards, and these cars are claimed from racers in their respective cities, the strategy of choosing a car that fits your needs is taken away from you. The vehicles you win are already tuned to be good in the city you're racing in. In fact, I only went out of my way to change vehicles one time when I decided I could deal with some slippery turns in exchange for ridiculous speed in Los Angeles. The variety of types of cars and the way they handle was one of the parts I remember most about Midnight Club Los Angeles. It's a distinct way of handling how different cars feel very different despite being similar in size. In Midnight Club 2, the lack of control and direct strategy makes the game feel much more simplistic and primitive. Without choice, the game hands you cars and you drive them until it hands you another car and you drive it. The rest of the gameplay then has to depend on the racing and the mechanics and the challenges to keep the game interesting. As you progress through the game, you also unlock different vehicle abilities like burnouts and nitrous. The most interesting is probably the weight transfer mechanic. When you are flying through the air, you can hold the left trigger and tilt your vehicle to land better, allowing you to keep your speed on impact. When you are on the ground, you can hold the trigger and put your vehicle up on two wheels to squeeze through tight windows. The weight transfer mechanic is also really important when driving motorcycles, a vehicle type I didn't mention until now because I hate them. Using the weight transfer makes the camera go off on this horrible close-up angle and makes it nearly impossible to see. Burnouts allow you to get a faster boost off the line and also allows you to change directions before races even start. While these added vehicle abilities were expanded on in later games, it was cool to see them here. The race types and challenges also offer their own twists as well. There are naturally the usual checkpoint races where you go through a specific order to get to the end, but one kind of race I deeply associate with the Midnight Club series is the unordered checkpoint races, where you have a bunch of checkpoints you have to hit on a map, but you can approach them in any order. They are frantic sprints where you have to keep the hammer down because the person in second might not be anywhere near you, but they are just as close to the finish line. When you start a race and everyone is facing different directions, you start to realize how hectic the next few minutes are about to be. While I think these are trademark of the series, there are a few other interesting event types. Police chases often break out during races and ultimately become another obstacle to deal with, but there is a challenge where you have to lose the cops and get to a checkpoint before your opponent does. It was a simple change of pace, but it doesn't provide much challenge. Possibly my favorite race type was a sprint where you have to race to a checkpoint on the other side of the map and back, taking any route you want as long as you get there first. All the variety keeps things interesting, but what grated on me after a while was the pass-fail criteria in every race. In order to get to the next event, you have to come in first, and first alone. This means you get to a point where you are retrying races repeatedly in order to get to the number one spot. It didn't matter that my rival came in behind me. The fact that a random AI driver won means I started over. And when you combine that with some of the iffy checkpoint hit detection, there was some neck and neck races I lost because the finish line was slightly too far away to detect that I passed it. None of this is to say that these issues are game breaking, but if you get stuck, you can expect your progress to be hindered by a good half an hour or worse. Midnight Club 2, the second entry in the now long-dormant Rockstar franchise, feels primitive by today's standards and even Midnight Club Los Angeles standards, as it should. But peeking out from the simplicity is a wealth of good ideas that made their way into later games like vehicle type differences, weight transfer mechanics, and multiple event types. And while the lack of licensed vehicles was a bit of a bummer, the game offered enough to keep me entertained, if not a bit frustrated at times. Thank you so much for watching my video this far, I really appreciate it. If you like the video, consider leaving a like on it. Have you played Midnight Club games, and if you have, which one is your favorite? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, hit subscribe and the bell to make sure you never miss an upload. Lastly, if you want to support the channel directly, you can go to my Patreon link in the description. For $1 a month, you get early access to my videos and some extra videos you can't see anywhere else. I'd like to take a moment and thank my higher tier patrons, Andrew Lang, Andrew Elmore, O Kayla, Just Jessica, and 8-Bit Jesus. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.